Branding 101. Just kidding. It's more like 202 because we're going to take it a little bit to the next step. We're going to talk about branding today. And as I'm waiting for some people to log on, I want to say that the word branding is everywhere, and I absolutely understand this, but my entire goal is to take it to the next level. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't like being surfacey. I don't like just I don't like pretending that you know nothing on many levels. I like to take it to the next step. So many of you have probably already started with branding, or you've thought about branding, or you think you have an idea about branding, or you've taken little branding classes. My whole goal is to take you to the next level. I think there's a lot of courses out there that are for people who are in the very beginning stages, and every time I buy a course that like promises to change my life, and then I buy it, I'm like, oh, I kind of already knew that, you know? And so my whole goal with branding, with talking to you about I know I use this catchy phrase, right? Like 3 branding strategies that will boost your brand, or three business strategies that will boost your brand. I know it has a lot of B's in it. But when I do that, hopefully, if those of you who have downloaded my 25 marketing tips, I really try to go above and beyond with the information, because I think so many of these freebies or things like that are sometimes a waste of time, or sometimes they just feel like they're not quite, like you need to be up here a little bit more. So I feel that my gift is to explain branding in a way that's going to help elevate where you need to go, so that it's not still like, okay, I get what she just said about branding, but now what, right? Like my whole thing is that you guys come away and understand now what. So how many of you have ever hired a brand strategist? Has anybody like hired a person who branded them? Not a designer, because they are not a brand strategist. Not a stylist, because they are generally not a brand strategist. Have any of you like legit hired a brand strategist? Anybody? Give me a heart, or wave the emoji hand. Okay, I'm not seeing that a lot of people have hired a brand strategist before. So I actually did. I knew a brand strategist. He worked in LA for very big companies, and very close to the very beginning of my business, I decided this would be a process that I needed to go through. Mostly because I would like show my portfolio to other photographers, and they'd say, oh, this photo is really bad, or this is hitting a lower market, and part of me couldn't see it. And I have so much empathy, because now I do a ton of brand reviews, and I do a lot of where I go do portfolio reviews, which to me are really like a brand strategy session when I do your portfolio reviews, because I can look at a website and I'll say your highest booking wedding or your highest booking gig is $3,500, right? And they're like, Darcy, how did you know that? Yes, that is. I can look at a website and pretty much guess to the dollar where their basic booking is. It's a party trick. I just find that I'm really popular at parties when I'll be like, show me your website. You only make this much money per wedding, don't you? And then people want to slap you. But they're also fascinated. It's like reading your palm. But your website and what you're putting out is like reading your palm, right? You can see, it's not hard. People who go get their palms read, I would imagine, I never did this. Actually, I did. I did it once in New York City. Should I tell you about it? It was a little old lady in Chinatown sitting on a bucket on a corner. I had just been asking my friend, what do I do with my life? I turned around and said, palm readings, $10. I gave her $10, sat down, and this was 3 or 4 months before I ended up moving back to Europe. And she said, she did not know anything about me. And she said, you will travel the world to far off places. One of them is coming up very, very soon. I don't know how those things happen. Back to branding. So I hired this brand strategist, and the first thing that he taught me, and that was really great, was what branding actually means, like a definition of branding. And it's the one that I've used ever since. So I have it written down because I don't want to get it wrong. So it says, and there's a great brand guy. He's been around for a long time. He's kind of known as like the classic person who understands brand. And he did, his name is Marty Neuermeyer, if you want to read some of his books. And he defines brand simply as a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. Okay, so a person's gut feeling. So your brand is a person's gut feeling about your product, service, or company. That's why when I go onto a website and look at it, because I've worked with so many different brands, I can say your brand is targeting people $3,500. I can tell because you have weddings with burlap in them and sunflowers. I'm sorry, those are two telltale signs that you are in the $3,500 range for the most part. It depends on the location where you're at. So a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. On today's call, I'm going to talk to you about 3 things that are really going to help boost your brand. I'm going to try and make them as interesting as possible. I don't want you guys to zone out. Can you all just like power through and think, oh, I don't want to deal with this. It's not really fun. I'd rather go watch the Kardashians or whatever. This is your life and your business. And if you're on this call, I assume you are very ambitious about your life and your business. You want to guarantee that your creative business will be around in 5 years. I think it's a horribly disappointing statistic, which I try not to pay too much attention to, but I definitely tell it to my coaching clients because I want them to be aware. Like 80% or 90% of creative businesses fail within the first 3 years. And if yours has not ever taken off, or yours has not really broken 6 figures, or yours is just barely chugging along and you keep wondering, should I just stop doing this? Or even if yours is at 6 figures, mid 6 figures, or you want to take it to 7 figures, so much of it is about the brand. And I will be honest, I hesitated even talking about brand because I feel like it's a conversation people are having anywhere. And yet every time I go and listen to their conversations, I personally feel that they're targeting people with very minimal understanding of brand, that they're not delivering really comprehensive information, and that I come away with no motivation to have any idea how to change my brand. Which is one of the reasons I did hire a brand strategist way back in the day. And I've used so much that I've learned about branding through that process to now have a very clear path, my brand, path of where to go and how to continue to up level. And there are some things you do need to invest money in, you guys, and I'm going to talk about one of those. I don't think you can just have a magical brand and not put out any money. And I think there are some things that you're spending money on that are the wrong thing. So a lot of you will spend a ton of money on website design without actually understanding the feeling you want your person to see, and you're putting up the same images or the same pictures of yourself or the same, does that make sense? So you're like, I'm going to pay all this money for a website design, but you've just gotten an upgraded website that is still portraying the same brand, your words, your feeling, the images, and they don't have to be just wedding images. I work with people so far outside of the wedding world as well that this call is really applicable no matter what kind of business you're doing. I just have a lot of examples with imagery, but imagery is key no matter what business you're in. And the ironic thing about photographers is they take a ton of images of other people and they don't have enough of their own self with their brand. So that's going to be something that I talk about too. Are you with me? I don't know what I'm going to say. Are you going to be interested? Okay. So if we're going off this idea that a brand is a person, which I would say a client, whatever, a gut feeling about a product, service, or company, a really great game to play is to look at somebody's Instagram and decide what is the feeling of this brand. It's called the brand game. I play it a lot. I do it with like, okay, sometimes I'll say Apple's an easy one. Like, what does Apple make me feel? It makes me feel like the power of creativity and the future is in my hands, that I can travel with these things, that they provide me with all my music and video needs, that they're really friendly, and that going into the store is easy, but they also ship, right? So, and then you think of like artistic brands. Like I love, do you guys know that she's a food stylist, Marta Marie Forsberg, MM Forsberg Retreats. When you go to hers, it's this, every image is otherworldly, escapism. Like, I want to escape my regular, boring looking American life, and I want to go escape into an English countryside. She has branded the English countryside escape so well that she sells out her retreats effortlessly. Right? So that's a huge thing about a brand. When you go onto a feed, that's why sometimes I'll go look at Instagram feeds and it's like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know, like, you've got babies here, and then you've got black and white here, and then you've got this here, and you've got this here. And Instagram I don't feel like I'm the strongest in my Instagram pictures. I feel like I'm better at my Insta stories and my Insta captions. Those are kind of what I think people are knowing my brand for. But I hope that when people know my brand is that they know Darcy delivers. Like, even her free content is something I would absolutely pay for. Darcy understands marketing because I study it like crazy, and she's trusted. Darcy has a ton of people who've worked with her who've all had major success. So I see Darcy as somebody who can bring people success. You can't fake that one, by the way. Social proof, which we'll talk about on next week's Instagram Live, is something that you cannot fake. So her name is Marta Marie Forsberg, and she's a food stylist turned workshop hostess, and she's awesome. Okay, so let's get to the 3 things that will boost your brand right now. 1, understanding the definition of brand is going to be huge, okay? So, again, a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. When people think about your brand, certain images, feelings, and emotions come to mind. This is a really great journal activity. When people think about my brand, what images, emotions, and feelings do I want to come to mind? Okay? So most people are like, what do I want my brand colors to be? I want pink, because that's what everybody's doing. I have just redone my brand colors actually for the 3rd time because I just don't want to be cutesy pink, even though I'm wearing pink. But everybody's doing pink right now. So I think that's the thing. We all get distracted by the easy stuff. We get distracted by like, well, what do I want my brand colors to be? What should my logo be? I didn't have a professional logo until this year. I had one that I created myself in Photoshop, and it was really simple and it totally worked. But my brand was still growing because I didn't have the logo wasn't central to my brand, if that makes sense. So what emotions, feelings, and images come to people's minds? So like Marta Marie Forsberg, for example, and I've never met her or anything, so hopefully it's okay that I'm referencing her this much. But my images of her are this like still life, moody, with beautiful light, with these old like wooden bowls and this fruit, and walking with a basket and like this ancient kind of feel. She's branded that so well. So I think it's important to understand the next part of branding, which Simon Sinek, if you guys don't know, he has a book called The Start With Why, and he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you don't have a why you're doing this story, your brand is probably not resonating with a lot of people. So what I would say with hers, she talks about like leaving the city life. She really wanted the country, things like that. That's why she's doing it, not what she's doing. Yes, she's taking pictures, but I want to go kind of to take pictures to her retreat, but mostly I want to go to to have an experience in the English countryside that's escaping my busy life, which is exactly what she did to get there. And Christy, yes, that is a good point, and that's my point number 3, so I'll be getting to that. So point number 1, ways to elevate your brand. The first thing is you need to have a brand shoot. You need to have more photos of yourself, because we are now in a society that doesn't just value the product, they value who is delivering that product. Does that make sense? They don't want to just see what are you giving me? Unless you're like Apple or Nike, but even Apple has Steve Jobs and Nike generally has athletes, right? So they're buying who is behind that. If Nike was just selling shoes and just pictures of shoes, pictures of shoes, pictures of shoes, would they sell as much as pictures of this basketball player dunking a ball wearing those shoes? I obviously don't know sports or basketball players, and I don't know who's a Nike brand advocate right now, so I can't really say that. Like, even just the place of Kylie Jenner, who I don't watch very often because I get disturbed by her features, but just seeing her like having a waist trainer, and then all these 15-year-old girls are buying waist trainers. Are they buying waist trainers because they really care about their waist, or because they think like, if I look like Kylie Jenner, I'll have whatever Kylie Jenner has? I don't know. So all that to say, weird segment. I make it a rule, try not to talk about any Kardashians on social media. I don't know why I just did it. All that to say that you need to be more a part of your brand in a sense. So if you're crafting an object, we need to see how you craft it, the love you're putting into it. If you're a photographer, we need way more photos of you photographing people. So you need to hire a photographer to come and photograph you. We need, if you are advocating travel, you need more images of you traveling. Many of you have probably seen me asking for photographers for New York and Thailand, and I just got a shoot in Scotland. I've just got that one delivered so I can put that up. And Paris, I just hired a photographer for Paris, because my brand is about living the life of your dreams with traveling. So having a very solid branding photo shoot with your, and not a bad one. You guys, invest in this. Don't just get your neighbor to come take a couple of headshots of you. I've done a few where I just try and get like some portrait shots, because 1, I always hated being in front of the camera. 2, I just, I'm not a size 0, so it's always been harder to like find clothes that I felt like fit me well. And now that I've just started embracing who I am and loving who I am, I just don't care anymore. I'm like, you know what? This is my body. This is what I'm doing. This is how much I put into my marketing. This is me. Like, let's just sing The Greatest Showman or something. But the branding photo shoot, so having a branding shot list, understanding what elements you want to bring in, understanding what things you want to like put out there about your brand, those are key. Okay, so the number 1 way to boost your brand, have a legit branding shoot. Don't just, I would consult somebody on it who, either your photographer, I know I'm doing several in New York City, and I lead them through a process. I lead them through like, let's review your website. A lot of them are my coaching clients, because I'm making them get branding shoots. I'm like, your brand is never going to be as big if you're not more a part of it, and you need to be a part of it in really, like, if you're a film photographer, you need to have film photographs of yourself beautifully in different places that really not just always wispy like I'm on a beach, but actually like you working, you in your office. Different things like that are very important for social media and for our presence at this day and age. Does that make sense? So having that brand photo shoot, consulting with a brand strategist or a branding person, making sure you have the right kind of outfits and things that will kind of portray who you are. Especially, I remember, and she's going to be on my podcast. She's so amazing. How many of you follow Marie Forleo? Anybody? So Elsa Isaac, who, hi Elsa, if you're watching this, she is going to be a guest on the podcast soon. She is a huge brand stylist in New York City, and I hired her for my first first big photo shoot. She was $1,500 worth every single penny. She pulled together all these outfits for me and helped me kind of create this vision of myself that I didn't know. Stephanie, not Marie Forleo, not Marie Forleo. She's not being on the podcast. Her stylist is Elsa Isaac, who is such a part of everything that Marie has branded. So Marie has really branded herself as this like fashion savvy, fit, New Yorker type woman. And we all, like, I think half of us watch Marie Forleo's videos just to watch how beautiful her hair is and what outfit she's wearing. I know that sounds weird and maybe that sounds insulting, but for me, I love seeing how she's built her life. I love how smart she is. I love all the great content she gives. I love that she's not afraid to dress well. I love that she's not afraid to buy things that matter, to put herself out there, to get out of yoga pants. You know, like that is something I really love. And I love watching her do it. And it inspires me to see how she is building that. So your brand shoot is all a part of that. And it needs to be more than just like trying to think of a couple headshots. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is you have to get outside feedback about your brand. So a little bit about when I went through the brand strategy, it was very vulnerable. He made me give him 4 contacts of people who knew me really, really well, who knew me sort of well, and who only really knew my business, which is kind of a weird thing to ask, but I had my sister for one, and then I had a colleague. She is a creative, a writer. She's directed movies. She's actually going to be on the podcast soon too. I had somebody who only kind of knew me just from like one photo interaction with me, and then I had like a good friend. And he took all of those phone numbers, and I could not be present for this. And he called them and had like a 30 to 60 minute conversation with each of them about how they perceived me. One of them said I was too competitive. What the heck does that mean? I know what it means. You get to hear the good and the bad. And he doesn't tell you who said what, although I think I know who said the too competitive thing. I have forgiven her. And he gave me this feedback of how they perceive my brand. And what's interesting is they were perceiving it quite different than what I thought it was being perceived at. And they also said some things like, I just wish she would do this, or I think it would be so much stronger if she had this, or I really see her as doing this. Because I had talked a lot about doing some of these things, but then I wasn't doing it. I wasn't taking action doing it. And seeing how other people were perceiving my brand, I was like, wow, my brand is lacking a little bit of trust here, because I'll say I want to do things or I have these dreams, and then I take no action towards it. Where is that getting me, and how are people perceiving me with that, right? So it was key. I would truthfully not conduct these interviews yourself, because people are never going to tell you the absolute truth about things if they're talking right to your face, except for me. I actually give it to you very, very straight, but that's because I don't know you personally, and I'm super invested in your success, because that's what my life's mission has become, is to help other people become more successful while also not giving up my own success. One of the things I think makes me really different is I don't just coach people and then that's all I do and that's my whole business. I'm actually still out there running a 6-figure wedding photography business and running a workshop business. So for me, I feel like that was part of what I had to do. I couldn't just give up my artistic side too, just to be a coach. And I feel like a lot of people couldn't make it as, like, if you can't make it as a photographer and then you become a photographer coach, or you can't make it as like a florist, but then you become a floral coach, that to me, I don't hire those people. I want to hire people who have absolutely made it. And maybe they've retired now, sure. Like I'm not going to shoot weddings forever. But the thing that sits really well in my own integrity is for years consistently, I have booked 6 figures shooting weddings, and that could be the only job I ever have. And I don't need to do this extra part. I actually find a lot of joy doing the marketing. I'm obsessed with it. I find it so fascinating. I find human beings fascinating. So wedding photography kind of got on autopilot where it became easy. I was booking it through planners, through whatever. I worked really hard at the beginning, and now it just flows. And so I maybe I'm too competitive. I don't know, that's what the branding guide said. But anyway, I like to add on this extra facet once it started fitting my business. But I didn't just stop shooting the weddings and then teach people how to make it as weddings. I'm still out there in the thick of it, learning how to bring in the high-end weddings as well. Does that make sense? So it is just as satisfying to me that I just booked like almost a $12,000 package in New York City for a wedding as it is to book a coaching client. So just with that being said, I do think it's very, very important to have an outside opinion. So you can either hire a brand strategist, you can get a brand, and I've been thinking of offering that, but I don't have a lot of time. But I think what I'm producing right here and like helping, I do go through some things of the brand strategy. I'm just hoping this enough, like getting a really good photo shoot, getting outside feedback about your brand, that's going to help you see like, oh, I kind of do need to remove these images and replace them with something like this. And my brand copy, I'm not even like emotionally connecting with people. People are not going to connect when you just list what you offer them. You have to list why it will transform them. People buy transformation, they don't buy lists of stuff. Does that make sense? So that's a big part 2. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. And then part 3, I think that is really, really important is really understanding where your emotional connection is. What are your brand stories? What are the stories that really changed you and focused you as a creator, as a person? How does that influence? What is the emotion when people come onto your website? And what I think, and why so many websites look the same, is I truthfully think people are not connected enough with what they have to offer. One of the things I make my coaching clients do when they book me is they have to come up with 25 reasons why somebody would hire them versus somebody else. Why would they hire you? And it's really hard. And a lot of people can't think of 25 reasons, or they feel like they're bragging, or they feel like, and some of them are really generic reasons. But once you get past those generic ones, you can start to get to the core, because there is a core of who you are. It's just lots of us are too lazy to seek for it. And so we just go and see what other people have done, right? We see what other people are creating, and then we think, oh, that's my brand too. Oh, I'm a fine art film photographer too. Or, oh, I'm a florist too. Or, oh, I'm a calligrapher too. Or, you know, whatever you are, if you're just looking at other calligraphers or looking at other florists or looking at other stylists or looking at other planners or looking at other mom bloggers or whatever, and you're like, yeah, their brand is kind of my brand. And then you are just going after that without understanding your key stories and where your emotional connection is. Your emotional connection is going to be different than my emotional connection. Like my passion for travel, a lot of photographers don't have that. So like for me, it's really important for me to really talk about my travel. It's important. I attract a lot of clients who love to travel, and them seeing me travel, is really helpful for them booking me. I'm not just a destination wedding photographer who hopes to go to Paris one day. Sorry, all you destination wedding photographers, all you people who put like, will travel in your bio and yet you never are traveling anywhere. I wouldn't book you to travel with me. I would not think you had I would think you don't have enough passion to travel if you're not actually out there doing it. And yet for some reason, everybody thinks it's very helpful to put, we will travel in our bio. I would never even put that in my bio because I would just show pictures of me traveling. That's how they know I'll travel. I don't need to tell them I'll travel because travel is part of my brand. But boom! Do you get it? Do you get it? If you have will travel, put that out and then go travel and then post pictures of yourself traveling. And when people see, the reason people aren't hiring you for traveling, you guys, is because nobody is getting that feeling that you love the world and that you're out there exploring it. To me, the best destination wedding photographers are those who show how much they love the world and how much they're exploring it. And people are like, I want that passion at my Iceland wedding. Mic drop. Boom. High five. Okay. So with that, I will take some of your questions now. Those are pretty much the three things. There's so much more. I don't like to overwhelm people. It's already been 30 minutes of like intense stuff. So you have to have a branding shoot. You need to be more the face of your brand. You have to get out there. You need brand feedback by people who are not your best friends, and don't ask them directly. Try and hire somebody or get somebody who will do this kind of this is market research. It's actually what I teach in the course. By the way, the course is open. It will only be open till September 4th. It is a really long ass course, but I'm going to give you weekly help so you actually get accountable for your marketing plan. My whole goal with this course is to teach you this, to teach you brand strategies, to figure out how to get the branding shoot. I have so many things. Booking clients, never getting ghosted, okay? I have a whole thing on how to understand mental triggers so that your clients will not ghost you. Because most of you don't understand the psychology behind why they do ghost you. I'm teaching about that next week though, but these little Instagram lives, do you understand they are a drop in the bucket of what I know and implement in my own business? It's impossible to tell all in an Instagram live, and it's not a good business move to tell it all in an Instagram live either. I teach marketing like a ninja. I have a module called The Art of Selling. I have a whole thing about my client proposal guide. The entire process I take of how to create a proposal that will stand out. I do really different kind of proposals. I don't send the same pricing PDF to every single person. I have a way of how you scale for growth, all of that stuff. So that is called the Marketing Map for Creatives. It's on darcybenincosa.com/marketing. It's only on sale till September 4th. There's two options to buy, and there are payment plans. The higher one, I'm capping that. So once that is sold out, it's gone. But it's a 7-week marketing mastermind with me. So your entire 2019 is absolutely planned out, and it is over delivering. If you think this call, imagine this call times 7 modules with 7 training videos in it each, going through with downloadables. Like, I show you how to map it. I give you a brand strategy guide with questions for you to go through. I give you the PDF of my client proposals. I've given everything I possibly know in this topic in this course, and it is open today. You can go book it today. Once it gets too full, I'm closing the doors. Right now I have them closing September 5th, right after Labor Day, and then the classes start October 2nd, so that we can take October and November and really plan out your 2019. If you come to the Thailand or the Paris or the Morocco workshops, you get this for free, okay? $14.95 for free if you come to one of the workshops, because I do believe people who invest in me and come to these luxury workshops and learn about branding, they should absolutely have my courses, so I don't keep that from them. So, and if you coach with me, you get it as well. Anyway, let's take some of your questions. Okay. You should just start a school. I am. It's an online course called The Marketing Map for Creatives. So intermix your brand pics in between client pics. Find a photog with similar style to keep social media cohesive. Exactly. So with the branding shoot, I'm a film photographer, so I do have a couple digital images, which I think are fine. Like, I needed them quickly and needed to get some up because I had not let myself be seen for a long time. Like, I was like, I'm not going to get in front of a camera. My hips are too big or whatever. You know, those things that we all tell ourselves. Everybody has their thing. We can forgive ourselves for it, but we've got to stop letting it hold us back. So once I stopped letting it hold me back, I was able to get those images. But yes, I am one person who really gets my brand. I love her so much. Julie Kate Photos. She's in Florida. I just bought her ticket to fly up to New York City to photograph me there. And we're going to do a big brand shoot that has me in New York, because New York's a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my clientele. It's where I've lived and worked and went to school, and Broadway. I worked on Broadway, like all of those things. I am such a New Yorker in that respect. So, I am having a huge branding shoot in New York, but Paris is a huge part of my brand too, and I book a lot of weddings in France. So when I go there for my workshop, I'm going a few days early, and I booked a big brand shoot. I already have it mapped out, the outfits that I need to wear, the locations that I need, the stock photos that I need for my Instagram to really, really up my game in 2019. Okay. It takes so much time to share all this info. It's true. It's true, Rachel. I'm glad you're grateful. Thank you so much. I get free info from people that I love too, so I feel like it's kind of the circle of life. Like, there comes a time in your life when your expertise reaches a point where you do feel like, I just want to teach this stuff, because it's really empowering, especially when you feel like your goal is to empower the world. And I feel like all of us want the world to be a better place, either through love, through justice. There are some people who are like, I just want to love, I want to take care of all the animals. Some people are like, I'm going to fight for all of the rights. Some people are like, I'm going to work for clean water. I'm going to be about the environment. Like, we all have our soul mission, I think, within us. Is the marketing course only for photographers? Nope, not at all. It's for creatives. I don't just coach photographers. For the last 3 years, I have been coaching all kinds of creatives, from calligraphers to stylists to florists to photographers to somebody selling pottery, to so many different things, to now film labs, like things like that. Like, there's that market research is the same throughout business. The problem is, in the creative world, we just haven't taken responsibility for knowing it. We just think our pretty pictures are going to be enough, or our pretty product. And if a pretty product were enough, we would all be rich, because we're all really great artists. But there are things like SWOT analysis, market research conducting, different things like that. But what I feel the disconnect is that non-creative people get this, but they haven't yet learned how to teach it to creative people, because creative people, we want to be entertained. We want there to be story. We don't want to be bored. We don't like wasting our time. If you bore us within 10 seconds, we're on our Instagram just scrolling. Am I right? I'm like this. If I go to what I have done in your honor, in your favor, is I've gone to every single marketing conference that I could in the last several years, and I go to them consistently, because I know that one of my missions is take all the boring stuff, filter it through my creativity, and teach it to creatives, because the creative world is failing and falling behind because they can't keep up with this stuff. It's the same with our money story. We want to understand investing, stocks, bonds, understand how to retire, but because our creative brains tell us we can't, because it's not fun, or it's not a movie, or it's not like going to Paris or whatever, we don't focus on it, and then we end up broke and having to get really crappy jobs. And the accountants of the world just retire. Lawyers of the world retire. Doctors of the world retire. They're saving up. Us creatives are just like floating around. I'm so tired of that. I didn't want that to happen, but I didn't want to go out and become an accountant. I don't want to be an accountant. But I have a good accountant who I pay very well, who makes it so I know what my books are doing every single month. Okay, how would I go about finding someone to do market research, asking all those different people about how they think of my brand? How much money should I budget for hiring this kind of person? So there are brand strategists, right? So there are people who will do that. I will try and gather up a list of names, Wellspring Floral, and if you DM me later, I have one person, the person who did it for me. I can't remember what he charges now. I think I paid him, I think I paid like $900, and then I gave him a photo shoot. So I did a bit of a trade, because he needed, ironically, branding images, because he needs images too. Everybody needs images. That's the beauty of being a photographer. I am going to go through it in my modules, and I've actually come up with an idea of how you can sort of have somebody else conduct it, but how you do that. So I have a couple of so my two assistants, I'm training them on how to conduct the research for you, and they're way cheaper than me. So, you can pay like $400. I've already trained them, and they know how to go conduct the brand research, because I didn't find a lot of good brand strategists. So that is an offering that I'm putting up, and you can book them to come and, to phone call and gather all the data and put the data together in a cohesive, and then I create for you a brand guide, a PowerPoint, where it goes through your brand essence, because we interview you too. So I forgot to say, the key thing about being interviewed is you have to get interviewed about your brand, and we record it, and we go back through what you're saying and what you're presenting, and we kind of analyze that. So my assistants do conduct that. I do not, but I glance it over and make sure that it's right. Does that make sense? Okay. So that will be for offer starting around September 5th, as well as the marketing course. Thoughts on photographers marketing for both families and weddings? Yes, you should have 2 different websites for that. That's my thoughts. How to find the best designer for a rebrand? I think social media is awesome. If you love the brand or social media and you feel like you're watching, as long as the images are their own creations and they haven't taken them from Pinterest. I've been fooled a few times where I'm like, I love this Instagram account, and then I've realized they didn't create that. They didn't create that. They didn't create that. They just took it from Pinterest. I want to see a designer who has her own designs or his own designs on their feed. I'm just starting out. Will I be an over my head? I personally think if you take it to heart, here's the best thing. You have lifetime access. So even the first module, understanding your brand strategy, is key. Okay. So the activities I did that when I was first starting out. I got the interviews done. I had to fill out my own why. I had to fill out all of that stuff. I think every business should do that, but at the same time, I think we have to evolve in our businesses as well. So you can't just do it once. You kind of have to keep saying like, okay, at the end of each year, I reassess what clients booked me. Okay, what was my main booking for a wedding? What were these clients like? Did they have like this kind of aesthetic, this kind of aesthetic? Why did they book me? Why did they like that? So I think for that, hand letter shop, if you're getting stuff out of what I'm saying, you might not be in the position to get as much out as some people who've been in business for 10 years. But if you've been popping on my Instagram lives and how I'm explaining it makes sense to you, then I think it would be okay. Go look at it online, darcybenincosa.com/marketing, and double check that, okay? And just see if what it says there resonates with you. How often are the payments for the payment plan for the course? They are every 30 days. Does the Ultimate Marketing option have a 1-hour one-to-one with you? Jessica, it does not, but I might add it in depending on how many people book it. So if I have 30 people book it, I might not, but what it can have, and maybe what I could add in, I'll think about this. I could maybe add in that consultation with having my assistants, my associates basically go out and conduct some of that research for you. But a lot of the research I want to empower you to conduct yourself. That's really the only research you need to have somebody else conduct for you, because they need to get the honest answers and tell them that it's, it's all, we don't put the answers like your specific answers with your name. You really need to get like legit feedback. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions about it? Or about branding, or about brand strategy? Any questions? All right, Rachel, see you later. Okay, I think that's it. Do you feel good? Do you feel like that was just, I come at things with so much energy. Was that too much energy? Did you get some value there? All right, awesome. Okay, you guys, well, if you want to check out the course, it is open at the same time for next week and the week after. I'm doing some more Instagram lives to talk about what's being covered there. But I really think if you want to take and have a complete makeover of your marketing strategy for 2019, make sure you have that year planned out. So my marketing map is to help you plan out that year, going through everything so you know this is who I'm attracting, this is how I can attract more. Plus, have you guys listened to the 25 tips? Right? Even if you just did that, that's going to up your business amazingly. Like, that's so many different marketing things that I think a lot of people are giving out there right now. Because I get bored by a lot of what's out there, and so I really try and make sure I offer something that is just a little bit more cohesive and more in depth. I like to go in depth. All right. Bye guys. Talk to you later.